said before, I ended up in this new church. This is piggybacking off of another video that I did on leaving the church, and I ended up in another one. And I want to talk a little bit more about this new church that I was at. Well, I had a little bit more flexibility in this church. They were non-denominational, which I liked. So the doctrines were a little bit more laxed. So that made me feel comfortable because it made the ground for my healing a little more inviting. But at the same time, I ran into more things that could have been obstacles, but it ended up not being. And I ended up staying there 10 years. I was only there 10 years. I got what I needed and I came out. And I enjoyed it. What I enjoyed about it most is the pastor was reachable. That I enjoyed. I enjoyed that. And not so much that he was reachable and I could make an appointment and talk to him. I liked that he listened. He heard absolutely everything I said. And that was important to me. Communication is very important to me. So he was able to ask the right questions because he did listen instead of interjecting on different aspects of whatever the doctrine is that's being taught. That was important to me, and that's the reason why I stayed the amount of time that I did, because he gave me what I needed, and that was an active listening ear. And that's very important as you support people through a life of abuse or any set of traumas. You're trying to guide them into a healthier space. And I got that. I really, really needed that. And it was very important. And I didn't go see him much, maybe once or twice a year. That was basically it. The rest of the year was me spending time on applying what was suggested. Oh my goodness, I can't talk this morning. Anyway, applying those things. And I would apply them, and what worked. What didn't work may needed just a little bit of tweaking. And I worked that out myself. I worked that out myself. He was generous in his suggestions, and that was appreciative. And it was based off of me. I liked how it wasn't just a cookie cutter solution. It was based off of me and my experiences. And he admittedly said that there are a lot of my experiences that he had heard of them, but he has no experience in. So he pretty much went with his intuition and what he heard from spirit, which was appreciative. But for the most part, he guided me to the answer that was already there. And that I appreciated because it kept my critical thinking skills going, and I was not lazy. Because some of us, sometimes we tend to, when we ask for support, or even if we're given support, sometimes we become lazy because they give us all the answers. Or sometimes we can cause other people to be lazy because we give them all the answers instead of guiding them to the answer that is already there within them. And that was very important for me. What I didn't care for is, okay, so something happened, and I was rewarded for my integrity. I was rewarded for my integrity because I didn't do something based on what someone else that I love very much, who was a part of that ministry, they decided to leave. And the way they left, it was a little sour. And I was not in agreement with the way they left. So I was not leaving with them. I just was not. Although these people were very important to me and they are like my heart of hearts, I was not in agreement. But I still stayed in contact with these people, even though they knew how I felt about the way they pulled out. Yes, it was time for them to go, but it was the way they did it. For me, it was not respectful, but that's just how I feel about it. Um, and I was rewarded as a thank you, which that's how the pastor, how he did things. And it was appreciative, and I appreciated the position that I had. I learned a lot. I learned about myself, not for as much as the person that I was an assistant to, but I learned about myself a whole lot. I learned more about what I liked, what I disliked, what I was willing to accept, and what I was willing not to accept. And when I meant I was not accepting it, I didn't care who you were. I just was not accepting it. And that's just the way it was. Yeah, I can be pretty stubborn, especially when it comes to my personal beliefs. If it is something that I am in disagreement about, no. And you can call it stubborn if you want to. I just call it, I'm just not willing to accept that. But that was, although it was appreciative, I'm not happy that I accepted the reward. And there was nothing wrong with the reward. There was nothing wrong with it because I ended up being someone's assistant. It's just that I don't think that's the appropriate way to reward people, because if I was not a person already working on healing, I think someone else who was coming from a set of traumas the way I did and end up in a position like that and not working on healing, I think that could have been a traumatic situation for them. But I was already in the process of working on it. And I saw some things, I discerned a lot, and I observed a lot. And my mind is always going. It's always, my wheels are always turning. So in doing so, I learned a lot. I learned more about the person that I knew, because I knew this person since I was a little girl. They've been knowing me, and this person is older than me. But I learned a lot more being their assistant, because it was on a closer level. And I saw how vulnerable this person really was. Although, you know, those little chihuahuas, they really small dogs. They have the biggest bark. I mean, the biggest bark. But when you walk towards them, it's like they're a little bit more guarded, and they'll move away. And this person's nature, I learned, was like that. And I learned how vulnerable this person was. And it caused me to be a little bit more compassionate towards this person. It really did. It caused me to be a little bit more compassionate, not codependent, but compassionate. That's how I knew that the work that I had been doing, healing, was working, because this is a person, most everyone in the church, they say they left because of her. I didn't leave. I never left because of her. I left because I got what I needed after 10 years, and it was just time for me to go. It was no point in me staying, because I got exactly what I needed, exactly what I went there for. But this person, their soul was bleeding, and I could see it. I could see it plain as day. But the way that they went at trying to heal themselves, it wasn't really working. It wasn't really working. So it took someone. So I understood why the pastor chose me. I understood. One, because of reward. Two, because I was the one that he trusted because I was the most observant at that point. I was the most observant, and I was the most patient, is the word I was looking for. Patient, because this person really, really needed patience. They really did. And I'm glad, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot on a higher level when it came to spiritual warfare. I learned so much. And for that much, I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that I went ahead and accepted it, because I learned a lot more about them, and I learned more about me. And I definitely knew that I could carry stuff to the grave.